Welcome back, everybody. This is HTF Bets, your Thursday live show, part of the Hitting the Field network. We have a great show for you today. We're going to recap some NFL games from last weekend, of course, give you the update on our HTFN host fantasy football league, and then it's fight week. So, of course, we're going to dive into that. Round 3 of Fury and Wilder. So stay with us because it all starts now. Welcome back, everybody. NFL football. This has been such a great start to the season. We've seen the Chiefs, one of the best teams in the league. They've lost a couple games so far. We've seen history made with Tom Brady. We've seen a lot happen this season. So I want to dive into some of the games from last week. I'm going to start with my main co-host, Riley Sheppard, and then with guest host today, Johan Blanco. We'll dive in with you. But Riley, what is your game of the week this week?
My game of the week is Browns at LA. I'm all aboard the Justin Herbert fan train, hype train, whatever you want to call it. Justin Herbert has been balling out this year. I was a little pessimistic seeing how he was going to perform against the Raiders on primetime Monday Night Football, but he balled out, and he's going to do the same this week. He dominated the first half, throwing 3 touchdowns, and it's going to be the same this week against the Browns. It's going to be a closer game. The Chargers and Raiders is 28-14. I'm saying Chargers 27-24 against the Browns.
I like that pick. I can rock with it. I have not been on the Browns train. They are 3-1 on the year. They've won some games. However, Baker Mayfield, he isn't fully healthy. It is in his non-throwing arm. He has a torn, he has something wrong with his left shoulder. So it'll definitely affect him. But I still don't think that it's not a major injury. But even healthy, I don't think the Browns are really able to compete with the Chargers, and especially with how hot that Justin Herbert is.
Absolutely.
My game of the week, though, I'm going to start it tonight, right here, Thursday Night Football. We have Rams at Seahawks. The Rams are going into Seattle at a 2.5-point favorite. Now, the Rams obviously have been one of the hottest teams in the league, and however, they did fall short last week. However, I think with the offensive weapons that they have, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, who caught his first touchdown of the season, they're an issue on offense. Absolutely.
I was going to say the spread is a little low, in my opinion. I would say it should be 5.
Well, see, here's why I'm okay with the spread. Obviously, the most impressive win for the Rams this season is against the Bucs when they beat them 34-24. But there were a couple of defensive lack of attention to detail on the Bucs side, whether it was play calling or just player lapses, where the Rams had wide open touchdowns. And so I think that their offense has kind of gotten away with some defensive errors. John, what do you think about the Rams this season so far?
Well, definitely the Rams are probably the best performing team of this season so far. I think Matthew Stafford has shown that LA is his home. Detroit, those past seasons, we forget about them. But I think that they're going to do good. But the only problem is that the Rams usually struggle against division rivals. Look what happened last week against Arizona. We thought they were going to win. What happened? They lost. So that's the only thing we have to take into consideration. So I think the spread is accurate.
Well, I'll tell you what. Going against the Seahawks, I've said it all season, and Russell Wilson we trust. I will never count the Seahawks out of any game. However, I do think the Rams pull this one out. But when you have Russell Wilson, who, as soon as he gets the ball, it is all eyes on him because you don't know what he's going to do. He's kind of doing what Kyler Murray has done a little bit better this year, where he can scramble around, he can make plays happen, and that's what he's
make nothing out of something.
Right,
that's exactly what he does.
Absolutely, and that's what he's done all season. But I brought up the blown coverage that the Bucs had. The Seahawks gave up a 76-yard touchdown to Deebo Samuel last week on the same exact thing. There was just a complete defensive lapse. So if the Seahawks want to have a chance of winning this football game versus the Rams, that simply just can't happen. They're too good of an offense. They have a solid defense that's going to counter Russell Wilson's ability. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think the Rams do come out with it as a -2.5 favorite. Johan, what is your game of the week?
Well, guys, I'm going to go left field with it, go something that is probably more irrelevant to anybody else. I'm going with Cowboys versus Giants. Why? Because I am a New York Giants fan, and I want my first pick of the week to be my team. But I have some valid reasons. It's at AT&T Stadium. The Giants usually play very well there. Not only that, but Daniel Jones started to pick up his stride. So I see this being a close game. It's only a -7 spread for Dallas, but I don't see that. I see an upset for the New York Giants this Sunday. Watch.
Well, there was one thing that you did say correct from that statement, and that this game is irrelevant. This game is irrelevant.
No.
The Cowboys are going to blow them out of the water at home. They're going to improve to 4-1 on the year, and Daniel Jones is not going to.
You mispronounced 3-2, but okay, thank you.
I just want to I just want to make sure I'm understanding, because I am in no way a Dallas Cowboys hater, and I am in no way a Dallas Cowboys lover. I think that they have a very solid team this year and can make a lot of noise if everyone can stay healthy and they continue to play their football. So are you saying that the Giants are going to cover the spread at as a 7-point underdog?
Yes, and you said you're not a Dallas Cowboy lover, but you are a Patriots lover, so you hate the Giants because we beat you in the Super Bowl, so you are disagreeing with me because of that reason, but they are covering the
I am
spread.
not.
They are covering the spread.
No, see, and that, Johan, that right there is why you're a guest host on HTF Bets and not a main host. You cannot come on this show and tell people to bet a +7 bet on the Giants when they're going against Dallas
Bet
at
your
home.
entire savings. Bet your entire savings, and I'm telling you right now, they're gonna win. I don't care what you say. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you right now. Daniel Jones is on a roll, and they always play well at AT&T Stadium. That's what I'm going by. I don't need no analytics or anything. I'm telling you right now. Anytime they play in Dallas, they thrive.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoy Johan Blanco on the show this week, because I don't know if I can have him back after this week with all this Giants talk. Yes, I'm a Patriots fan. I get it. Yes, 2 Super Bowls. We block out as Patriots fans those 2 Februaries in my lifetime.
I always have them.
The Giants are just irrelevant, and they will be from here on out for the rest of my lifetime. One last game that I want to cover is the Bills and the Chiefs, maybe the game of the week, going against with Patrick Mahomes and what some claim to be the lesser version of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. The Bills currently come in as a 2.5-point underdog, and the over-under set at 56.5. I think those are some really interesting lines. Riley, what do you think coming into this game?
Well, like you said earlier, the Chiefs are 2-2, but I still don't think that takes away from how good they are in that division. That division is just loaded. The Broncos are still the worst team in that division. Sorry, Hannah Joe. I'm sorry, Hannah Joe. The Broncos are the worst team in the AFC West. But I think the spread is fair. I think, like you said, this is going to be the game of the weekend. This is going to be very entertaining. It's going to be a shootout. The over-under is fair. I think it's going to be 37-34, something along those lines. Both teams are loaded.
Absolutely.
They have a lot. We like to say it on the show. They have a lot of mouths to feed. Both teams do. Tyreek Hill has been on another level this year, and Josh Allen is I want to say he's +500, +600 for winning MVP so far this year, which is fair. He's been top three, one of the best quarterbacks in the league through 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I mean the Bills 3-1 on the year. Their one loss came in Week 1 versus Steelers, which everyone was like, I don't know what that team was. That was not the Buffalo Bills out there. And we all said they were going to come back strong against Miami. What do? They go to they play Miami and have a 35-0 shutout in that game, that's what we can expect from the Bills this season. Now going against the Chiefs, who have clearly had their struggles, and it's kind of refreshing. The Patrick Mahomes ESPN highlights have come down a little bit this season. They still sneak them in. The fact they are 2-2 kind of does help. Johan, who wins this matchup? Patrick Mahomes or his apprentice, his second copy?
Well, I have to say this. If the Chiefs want to stay the top team in the AFC, they have to pick it up this week. No doubt about it, because they've had a slow start, and it's not going to look good for them if they're going to be the number 3 or number 2 team in the AFC. I'm telling you that right now. But I still see the Bills winning. First off, shout out to the defense. You gave me 21 points in fantasy, 4 interceptions last week, 0 points allowed. So I think that might be the deciding factor. If the Bills defense can stop Patrick Mahomes or can cover Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, this might be a long night for Kansas City.
And the thing is that the Bills have won every game that they should have so far, outside of the first week against the Steelers. But every game since then that they've won have been games that they should have blown out their opponent, right? I would say this is their first legitimate test this year. This could be a legitimate AFC championship game, and I'm excited. I don't know what time the game is off the top of my head, but I'm going to set 3.5 hours aside to watch this game.
Absolutely. And as far as containing Patrick Mahomes in the offense, I don't think as a team you really can. There's always going to be somebody. However, they have some defenses have shown signs of the Chiefs are beatable, which is nice to see. But I still think the Chiefs win at the 2.5-point spread. I would take them to cover. That's all the time that we have for this NFL segment. Stay with us. We're going to dive into some fantasy football from the HTFN Bets League. Stay with us.
Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No.
No.
It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
No, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one will know Taylor Swift.
Nitros, dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
Welcome back, Hitting the Field Network. As we love to talk about on the show, fantasy football is in full swing. We're through 4 weeks, and Tyler, for his first time ever, is giving us his top 5 ads of the week.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Riley. And this is my first time being the NFL fantasy football specialist. Usually we would give that over to Riley or one of the other co-hosts. Today, I said, you know what? I'm going to take this over. Starting as my number 1 pick, my number 1 ad of the week, Dawson Knox. It's pretty self-explanatory. 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Yes, that Buffalo offense is loaded, and they have a lot of mouths to feed. However, I think in fantasy where tight end is kind of a tough position if you don't have one of the top 3 guys, Dawson Knox is going to continue to be a top 10 tight end in the league. He's worth a pickup. Next, Trey Lance. Obviously, he's been fighting with Garoppolo for minutes the entire year. I think that if you pick him up now and keep him on your team, maybe don't start him this week. Keep him on your team for the remainder of the season. There are going to be weeks where he is going to come in handy to have on your bench. At number 3, Darnell Mooney. Allen Robinson has been a bust in Chicago this year. Justin Fields is starting to adapt to that offense. I think that they are going to start to build that connection that he just can't get with Allen Robinson. So if you wasted a fantasy pick on Allen Robinson this year, I'm sorry. He is not going to live up to the hype that he had coming in. Darnell Mooney is going to be your pickup. At number 4, Sam Darnold. It's pretty self-explanatory. He is an absolute fantasy football nightmare if you're going against him. 5 rushing touchdowns this season, which leads all of fantasy as a quarterback. Now, he doesn't have as many passing touchdowns as some of the other quarterbacks, but he is 6th in the league in passing yards. So you combine that with his number of rushing touchdowns, and you're good for at least 25 points a week from Sam Darnold. He is available in most fantasy leagues, so that should be your waiver wire pickup. At last, I have Samaje Perine. Joe Mixon out with an injury this week. We've seen how effective picking up these backup running backs, we've seen how effective that is in fantasy football. We saw it earlier this season. Dalvin Cook goes out. Alexander Mattison goes for, I think he had 25 to 30 points in the 1 week where Dalvin Cook was out. So Perine is going to be that guy that's going to come in, build Joe Mixon's shoes and have a great week in fantasy football this week. So pick him up and throw him in your lineup this week. Do not wait, because Joe Mixon's return time, we're not quite sure. It might be a couple of weeks, but usually when these guys come on, it's that first week that the starting running back is out that they really excel.
Now, Tyler, you have 2 quarterbacks in that ad list. Now, I agree with one of them. I agree with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold would be a perfect pickup. He's been really good in Carolina, and he just needed to get out that sticky situation in the Jets. But Trey Lance, man, you don't even sound convinced talking about him. You really don't. I mean, what makes you think that he's going to be able to beat out Jimmy Garoppolo throughout the entire season?
I think so. First of all, with Trey Lance, it's San Fran, they've had their running backs go down, and that has obviously hurt the value to have a San Fran quarterback in fantasy, because the better the running back, the more convincing you are in play actions and stuff like that. You still have Deebo Samuel, who's been a great fantasy receiver this year. I think with the weapons that they have, Trey Lance he's kind of been getting eased into it as rookie quarterbacks do.
No.
And he's been with Garoppolo.
No.
Tyler.
You still don't sound convincing.
I know this is your first week doing your top ad drops, but I expected better out of you. I really did.
Shame on
I
you.
really did expect better out of you.
Shame.
Let's start with Dawson Knox. He was your number one, and I have no idea why. A lot of their success has to do with how weak the Bills' schedule has been so far this season. Absolutely has been because of how weak their schedule has been. The next 2 weeks against the Chiefs and Titans is really going to determine what he's going to be, like how effective he's going to be. Like you said, the Bills are loaded at wideout, and Josh Allen doesn't really like tight ends. He's never liked tight ends in his career. So I really don't understand what you see in him.
But I'll tell you exactly what I see. We've talked about it all season on HTF Bets, how many mouths there are to feed in Buffalo. And we've said for the most part, you should still have those guys on a fantasy roster. All those wide receivers, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, all those guys should be on rosters. Dawson Knox is now in that category of Buffalo Bills.
What would you consider him? The second or third or the fifth option?
No, well, hey, that's fine. And I'm going to use that.
No.
You talked about, okay, they played weaker defenses. Now they have the test of the Chiefs and the Titans coming up. If Dawson Knox, he is clearly not the number 1 option, maybe not the number 2, maybe not the number 3. That's where they, in scouting and game plan, they're focused, how are we going to take out Stephon Diggs? He's clearly the number 1. That's where Dawson Knox, he might not get a bunch of targets, but when it comes to the red zone, we've seen the last 2 weeks, in his few targets, he has had red zone targets. So that's where he's going to be a red zone menace, and he's going to get
that is absolutely where he's made his money. He's never had more than 5 receptions so far this season in a game, but last week, like we saw, he did have 2 touchdowns. But I need to see more out of him against a much stronger defense, because the Bills, they have had the weakest schedule so far this season. They've blown everybody. They've played out of the water. But next person on your list, Trey Lance. Like, if he does get the keys to the 49ers quarterback, why this week against the Cardinals of all teams, against the Cardinals?
So here's the thing. He's only rostered in 27% of leagues. That number is going to jump after this league. So why he is on my list for this week in particular, I am not saying start Trey Lance this week. What I am saying is he is going to be a quarterback that down the line you may need to plug in. And if you don't have a high waiver claim, then there's not necessarily, you're going to miss out on your opportunity. So now is the time to go and grab Trey Lance to think about the future in case your quarterback goes out. In case your backup quarterback goes out, in case your backup quarterback is Ryan Tannehill and stinks. That's where guys like Trey Lance and Sam Darnold can really come into play. But we've talked about my ad drops, and I hate to say it, but we need to show you guys last week's results in our fantasy football host league. Riley, take it over. Tell them what happened to me.
And I feel the pain in Tyler's eyes. We both had losses this week. Let's go through the list. Alex Funderburk beat our executive producer, Johnny, and the Olivia Rodrigo Blankenship. Kyle's Juju Dance Crew took the W against Tyler's You're in Trouble squad. Austin's Full Senders absolutely demolished me. I don't know where my team was this week. It was absolutely embarrassing. I only had about 40 points through the 4:30 game on Sunday. It was not a good week for me. Kayla beat Kayla Berg's Fort Lottie Fins Up team, and Ross Bernstein's Flex on the Plebeians beat Hannah Joe's Orlando Cutie Pies. This week, like Tyler said, was interesting to say the least. This week's matchups are going to be even more interesting. We have Johnny Jackson's, our executive producer, going up against Tyler's You're in Trouble squad. We have Kayla going against Kyle. We have Austin going against Hannah Joe. We have Ross going against Okalo's Oilers. And finally, we have Alex Funderburk's bye week going up against my squad, hopefully getting my second win of the season. That is all the time we have for segment 2. Make sure to stay with us for Johan's fighting matchup. Tyson Fury against, I completely blanked. Deontay Wilder. Wow. We will be right back.
Here's the story of a show creator who was gearing up to form a bigger crew. One's a California guy,
A god of graphics.
One hosted Girls on Deck.
It's a story of a 4-year nightmare, which is finally coming to an end. Thank God.
And the new kid, a Packers lover.
Tampa forever. So then one day all these people work together to face a year unlike one that's ever been. And his group rebranded in Orlando. That's the way we all became HTFN. 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 That's the way we became HTFN. That's blasphemy!
Welcome back, everybody. Even after they just abused me over there while I was on the green screen, I decided to come back and hang out with my co-hosts here to talk about some boxing. Now, I usually don't get too excited for a boxing match. I'm much more of a UFC kind of guy when it comes to fighting, but this will grab anyone's attention. This Saturday night, we have Fury versus Wilder, round 3. Now, there's been a lot of controversy in the last two fights against them, one ending in a draw and one ending in a Fury win. Controversy all around. However, Fury is still the champion. He is still the favorite. Comes in at -270. Wilder at +220 with the over-under at 7.5 rounds, which I think is really interesting. I'll talk about that in a bit. But, of course, I have to go over to the expert because you don't want to hear from me. When it comes to betting, you want to hear from this guy, Johan Blanco. So, Johan, take it away, man. Tell us about these fighters. Tell us about this fight.
Well, since you said I was a guest for segment 1, you are going to be my guest for segment 3. Now, this is the biggest heavyweight fight in recent boxing history for the heavyweight division. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3. First fight, a draw. Controversially, but it was a draw. Second fight, a one-sided beatdown from Tyson Fury, ending in the 7th round. Now, there's been a lot of build-up. Originally, this was supposed to be Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, but the arbitration rule favored Deontay Wilder, so now we have the trilogy fight, which I think is still bigger than what we could have gotten with that other fight. So I'm really excited for this fight. I think that the odds are pretty close, but I think they're reasonable.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're just about where they should be. I think with the over-under, this is where things get really interesting. I am saying if Deontay Wilder has any chance of winning this fight, it has to go over that 7.5 rounds.
No.
And in my eyes, because I think he has to. He's not, because I don't think he's gonna get Fury in those early rounds.
That's when he needs to.
I really am curious what your opinion is on. We've heard rumors that Tyson Fury could be around 285, 290 going into this fight, and I'm really curious to see what your opinion is on how that's going to affect him.
Well, we'll figure out those rumors tomorrow night at weigh-ins if he's going to be close to 300 pounds. But he already said in the July press conference that he was already aiming towards that. So I'm not really worried about that because he was already preparing and training for that weight. Cardio might be a little bit of an issue, but Tyson Fury's game is elusive. It's herky-jerky. He's an unorthodox European flavor style fighter, and he is the biggest puzzle to solve in the heavyweight division. So the only thing I have to, to worry about is if his cardio can last from rounds 10 to 12, because the first 10 rounds, I feel like they're going to be okay. But can Deontay Wilder, fight off his back foot? Because we saw in the second fight, once he started backpedaling, he could not get off that straight right. He could not do anything. So we need to see what Deontay Wilder has done with his new trainer, Malik Scott.
Yeah, so here's, like you said it right there, where you see Fury with his weight and his stamina coming into play is those later rounds. That's where I think if Wilder can contain Fury for those first 7-8 rounds, and play not just be go, not just attack, but play strategic or fight strategic, then that's where I think in those rounds, that's where he can take his shot at Fury, and that's where I think if he wins this fight, that's I think where he wins this fight.
Well, the only thing is that I would agree with you if Deontay Wilder didn't have other things to fill and to improve on in his game. He is not fundamentally sound. Usually in his fights, he sets up his straight right hand by blocking the peripheral vision of his opponents with his lead hand. He needs to set it up with combos against an elusive fighter. You can't just rely on your power hand against guys like Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk. A fundamentally sound, elusive, and agile heavyweight will instantly evade and block those punches. So he needs to set it up. He needs to be able to change his game plan because he's always had the same game plan for over 40 fights.
Right. And so with Wilder having a new trainer for this fight after round 2 of the fight, perhaps that's something that they have been focusing on for this fight in particular. We're going to go into UCF versus ECU now. Sorry, we're transitioning there from fighting to college football, but we got to talk about UCF really quickly. Coming off a terrible loss to Navy last week. UCF comes in as a 10-point favorite at home. Riley, really quick, what are your thoughts about that?
As much as I hate to say it, I don't think that I think the spread is too high. As much as that hurts me, I said last week that UCF was more likely that they were going to clear the 30 points than they were to clear the spread, and that's what happened. I mean, they got 30 points and they lost. So I don't think I hope. Let's say that. I hope they don't lose. I predict they're going to win. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Mikey Keene finally has his feet underneath him a little bit at quarterback, and he's going to love the bounce house. I expect a big game out of Mikey Keene. I say 35-28.
I think the spread is way too much in favor for UCF. I think ECU is going to come out and punch UCF's defense in the mouth, and especially Eric Gilliard just entered the transfer portal. So that's a starting linebacker spot. Gilliard has been our second leading tackler the last 2 seasons. So that's a spot you need to fill. I don't think UCF covers the spread. I do think they go over 67, and I do think they win the game, but it's going to be by 7 points, or they push at 10. Lastly, our last part of HTF bets is a surefire bet of the week. Not only did I lose in fantasy for the first time last week, I also bet against my Patriots on surefire bet, and I was wrong. I will not do that again to the Patriots. I apologize to my fans. I am now 4-1 though on the betting line. So you still know which host to trust when it comes to your surefire bet. Mine, Coastal Carolina. I'm going back to them. I love these Thursday night non-Power 5 college football games. Coastal Carolina minus 20 over Arkansas State, who is currently listed at, or their current record is 1-4. Coastal Carolina 6-0 in their last 6 October games against the spread. So Coastal Carolina tonight at 7 o'clock. Take the bet. Riley.
And if you watch our Monday shows, you know how much Alex Funderburk loves UTEP. And I'm going to keep the train going. UTEP money line against Southern Miss. They're going to improve to 5-1 on the year. Southern Miss is 1-4. They've had more higher power games against Alabama and Troy and teams like that. But UTEP money line against Southern Miss.
Johan.
UFC Fight Night this weekend. Marina Rodriguez versus Mackenzie Dern. Bet on Marina Rodriguez. She is going to be the next contender in the UFC women's strawweight division.
Well, there you have it. Those HTF Surefire Bet of the Weeks are locked. Again, 4-1, 2-3, 0-1
Undefeated.
on his 0-1 on his Surefire bets. That's all the time that we have for today. We hope that you enjoyed us fighting it out in the studio today. Tune in on Saturday. You're not going to want to miss Wilder Fury round 3. We'll see you all next week. Thank you for joining us as always, and we will keep you updated on fantasy football, the fight, and UCF football. See you next week.
Hit it, boys.